Hi, I'm Landan Rich with Verve. We are Backstage with Brand Innovators, and I'm here with Paul Woomington, the CEO of Canvas Worldwide. Paul, it's great to see you. Thanks for joining us today.
Landan, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Wonderful. How's your week been so far?
It's been crazy but good. A bit like the world. Everything is chaos, but I'm seeing some signals in the noise.
Amazing. I'm excited to hear more about what you've been hearing this week. When you think about how you've led your organization through every stage of modern marketing, when you think about the progression from digital to social to programmatic and now AI,
Mm.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about your perspective on great brand storytelling. What's been consistent and timeless of how brands show up?
It's wonderful because I think at the heart of almost everything that keeps you level is storytelling. Let's understand. I had the privilege of becoming a senior fellow at Columbia University in storytelling, transformative storytelling. We were sponsored by the business school, the School of Arts, particularly the film school, a little bit light on journalism, and it was a little bit light on data sciences. So it was very interesting. In a prior life, I had done a lot of work around storytelling and journeys and
Hmm.
story worlds. So it's really interesting. We learn everything in life from story. And in eons ago, it wasn't really seen as a science, but actually storytelling is a science.
Hmm.
Everything that we learn is through story, whether it's books or whether it's Pixar or whether it's obviously YouTube now. Children learn from storytelling. So there are fundamentals about the science of story, the complexity of story, complexity of memory. Um, so I think that keeps me in this AI technology age kind of honest.
Hmm.
What are we trying to do? We're really trying in marketing to affect behavior change, maybe to
Hmm.
switch from one brand to another, maybe to enhance a sale. And obviously, even though the customer journey has been massively disintermediated, we know that. It's actually a good principle to understand. Obviously, you have some very long purchase journeys, you have some very short ones. I was actually this morning with Tariq Hassan, who's the ex-CMO of, and we were talking about fast food, but we weirdly talked about cars. Fast food is at the, you know, impulse,
Hmm.
kind of immediate,
Yep.
and it's every day, kind of. And then obviously the car journey is a much longer one. You know, what's wonderful about this technology age is how we're compressing the journey. How
Hmm.
brand and performance can be done at the same time, I think. I like the messy middle
Hmm.
of the journey. Too many people are overly emphasizing the bottom of the journey, spending too much time in an arms race to the bottom.
Yep.
So obviously understanding how you build brand and how you actually do performance at the same time is being massively enhanced by technology and AI, which I think is really exciting in today's age. I also think that we're overly preoccupied by small increments. Obviously, lots of small increments can add up to a big. But what I am also really fascinated by is hero applications. Hero means how do we solve business problems through these emergent technologies aligned to deep understanding of what it means to be human today.
Absolutely. That's a really great point.
Yeah.
On the flip side of brand storytelling, and you spoke a little bit about consumer behavior, and that's changing really quickly right now. What is the most important thing that brands have to keep up with as consumers change how they discover brands, how they make purchase decisions? Everything's changing in this moment.
It's kind of really interesting to reflect on a Stanford study that 70% of the past, up until the recent past, will not make you succeed in the future, knowing that past. So obviously we're in an incredible period of change, enhanced by technology. We've seen how technology has enhanced the shopper, every journey, you
Hmm.
know, the app world, the magic the first time I ever used Waze, the magic the first time I ever used Uber, and we just take it for granted now. And obviously we have now new iterations of that. So I think a deep understanding of behavioral science is one thing. So, but keeping up on behavioral science, but understanding some of the dynamics. One thing I would say, it's interesting to know that behind every rational decision is really a deep-rooted emotional decision
Hmm.
in almost every category.
Yeah.
So we think that actually a lot of AI plays to the rational mindset, I need to do this. Here is the incrementality. Here are the tests. But obviously, again, it comes back to this emotion in the brand, or the emotion in, I need to justify this to myself. I'm going to spend something deep down, but then you use the rational, I'll go through the algorithm of testing that this, meets my criteria. But deep down, there is an emotional driver on there. So that's one thing that, again, keeps me kind of honest in this world. But I think it's a deep understanding of culture, how culture is shifting. So this understanding of the dynamic of culture, and I use that in a very broad
Yeah.
sense, and obviously also understanding the technologies that are enabling completely new behaviors. How familiar, what we've seen is the adoption curve now is so much faster than it ever was before. LLMs, classic examples, the adoption of ChatGPT, Claude and others, just in the population at large, how quickly that is obviously being adopted. But then really the underlying layers and layers and layers in our marketing world is understanding how we maybe don't chuck the baby out the bathwater, because some clients have to, quite rightly, and we as well as custodians of the brand, um, we need historical tracking of what works and what doesn't work, but how we overlaying onto that the new techniques that are much more dynamic, compressing timelines, allowing us to do agentic work, obviously allowing us to slice and dice audiences in hitherto unknown ways. The objective ultimately is to affect behavior, to drive an outcome, to drive outcomes. The ultimate outcome is the business outcome.
Absolutely. That's great. You talked about compressing timelines. I think that that's really interesting right now with the consumer purchase journey, and
Yes.
that's really shrinking as well.
Yeah.
Also, your path to getting there is so different than it once was.
Yes.
What are some of the things that you're seeing stand out the most in that journey?
Well, what we've seen is that decade-long frictionless is obviously one
Mhm.
aspect of that. You know, actually, sometimes we don't think there's friction. I mean, there are genuine frictions in obviously lots of customer journeys, and but actually, what we've seen is maybe sometimes we get used to some of that friction, and it doesn't feel like friction, and then suddenly a new technology comes on board, and obviously you go, "Wow, I can reduce 2 more steps." Um, so a wonderful example, obviously, we've been very privileged to have the Hyundai as a client, and we've worked with Amazon for a few years now. We were first to market on selling cars on Amazon. We've built an entire marketplace, Hyundai have, and we've been a partner alongside other partners, and particularly Amazon, in building a marketplace and actually being able to take friction out of the car buying journey. And obviously understanding that Amazon is an ecosystem unto
Mhm.
itself. So we still obviously have our websites and many applications, but this would be a good example of compressing
Mhm.
friction in quite a long customer journey. And we've got to a point now where we are selling cars through. So all of the steps in the car buying journey can be done online in this environment that's native to where you want to be. If you happen to be, I happen to be quite
An
wedded to Amazon,
avid
Amazon
Amazon
Prime and
shopper.
everything else. So, that's an appreciation. You don't
Yep.
have to flip out of Amazon to go to Hyundai's website, but it's an illustration. But one thing I'm a little bit, maybe, I don't want to overthink this and over intellectualize this, but also in this arms race to faster. Is it better? Um, I actually I've worked with a lot of technology
Mhm.
companies, and obviously speed and is one thing that is very important to engineers. But I kind of go, but humans sometimes like to hang out. Where are these places that we can hang out? So another wonderful example, it's actually in my Columbia storytelling courses, the Burberry experience, obviously luxury you expect. So it's an online presence,
Mhm.
but what they do is they have unique content. So you can kind of hang out. I mean, you can actually go to the Burberry site and have acoustic music from great British brands. Of course, Burberry
Naturally.
is a British brand, so it has to be British bands, and they do these acoustic sets. Their fashion shows are integrated, so their fashion shows also, in the old days, it was very exclusive. You would sit, but they actually live stream them, so you can actually have viewing parties and you can buy product directly off.
Yeah.
So what they're doing is really integrating digital into what would be an analog experience.
Yeah.
Their store in Regent Street, their flagship store, actually was built off the blueprint of their digital footprint. So
It's
actually,
interesting.
it's almost the
Yeah.
reverse of what you'd expect. So when they did this experience, I mean, it's a beautiful experience, they integrated digital into it. So if you want to understand the history of the trench coat, it's there,
Mhm.
analog. But if you're in the digital experience, it's almost the reverse. How do we make the digital experience feel more analog? And if you're in an analog, how do I, because I want to know all about this code. I want to know where was the stitching? What was the history of it? Who wore these? Who are the famous people? You can do it in the store as well. So it's these worlds of analog and digital coming together that are really interesting. What does it mean to be analog in a digital age?
Yeah.
So that's another little illustration. But I think what it's doing is slightly collapsing
Yep.
what is digital and what is analog, what maybe gives me that extra push to make the purchase.
Yeah. Context.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah, very much.
Absolutely. You've said before that brands can't just react to culture anymore, right? They have to move at the speed of creators.
Yeah.
So, what does that really look like in practice?
It's so funny because obviously we are complex ecosystems in marketing and in media and in partnerships. But one fascinating aspect is how do you keep up with culture? You know, a brand is really the sum total of its experiences,
Mhm.
and obviously one area of experience now is how people are interacting with live content, creator content, which obviously is one of the dynamics. And I think what it means, I mean, the wonderful thing was we're at that sort of moment of maturation, not maturation, but I would say sophistication of the creator and influencer economy. And I think what we have now is it's technology enabled, which is fantastic. Obviously, compliance is really important, but the balance between operationalizing and scaling, but giving oxygen for creators to be who they are, their authentic selves. And that's what you want. That's where you get that virality. That's
Mhm.
where obviously it grows. So I think it's this wonderful blend of respecting the integrity of creators, the appropriateness, obviously, of a creator integration with a brand or referencing a brand or building story world around a brand or the brand integrating into their story world. Probably that's a better way to describe it, but also enabled by technology. So I think that we're at that point where obviously the phenomenon of creators, look, we all know it. Number one eyeball medium in the
Mhm.
US is YouTube. And it's not Hollywood content, it's creator content.
Right.
So, you know, that's proof that you know it's a very important phenomenon. We have Canvas Studios. So what we've done is we've brought our social teams, our content teams, and obviously the underlying glue are the creators. So it's not
Yeah.
exclusivity, but obviously we're activating through content. We're in the platforms, and obviously the catalyst can be the creators.
Incredible. Canvas was just named one of Ad Age's top best places to work for the third straight year. So, congratulations. That's quite an
Thank you.
accomplishment.
Thank you.
What has it taken in a world that's built on people and ideas to build a culture that consistently wins in this market?
Oh, thank you. Well, when we set up Canvas, we wanted it to be mission based. We
Hmm.
didn't just want it to be another agency like object. So our mission is challenge the comfortable. Um, it's underpinned by restless optimists. So I'm an optimistic person, but I'm also restless. And I think great work happens when you get outside your comfort zone. Um, and I think that's a great lesson in this age of change. But also, it's that restlessness to do something better. How can we make whatever we do better?
Yep.
And then be optimistic about it because there's too many pessimists in this world. I like optimism. underpinned by one P&L, no turf ego greed. So we really are, we're one canvas. We have 6 offices in the US. We always refer to ourselves as one canvas. We actually got a big event. Everyone's coming together in our new LA office
It's great.
in just over a month. And we're all going to celebrate what it means to be Canvas, what it means to be in our incredibly interesting and changing business. But it's a fragile thing. Culture is a fragile thing. You have to nurture it every day. It's not a PowerPoint deck. It's not just once in a blue moon a town hall. So I've for 6.5 years done a weekly email. We're very transparent. But I think it's just we have optimism, and we've created an environment through our training, through leadership labs, to everything else, plus technology. It's this incredible doubling down on training. What does it mean to be a leader in the future of this industry? Again, we're having to make new rule books on what leadership means, both future leaders and present leaders, aligned with technology, aligned with bringing co-pilots to be collaborators at the table,
Yeah.
enablers. So this incredible blend. So it's, that is in, obviously it's more complex, but what I would say is I wake up and I go to bed thinking about culture. Also, our client relationship cultures. How do we nurture that?
Yeah.
How do we become that trusted advisor? Trust is this incredible world in the B2B market, our world, but in the B2C market, how do you establish trust? That's a huge factor that, again, we nurture every day, and
Yeah.
you don't take anything for granted. It's not plug and play anymore.
It sounds like you've done a really wonderful job at investing in your people and making them feel that, which is wonderful.
No, thank you. I feel it. And of course, the accolade was the best accolade we could get because it's independent of me. Over 200 of the, nearly, I don't know, 550 people we've got were surveyed
Right.
anonymously in order to get to that result. So I think it's a statistical result, but it's actually objective and independent. It isn't, a nice PowerPoint deck with me saying Canvas is the best place to work. It's them saying it,
Right.
which is incredible. That's really incredible. Yeah.
Well, Paul, thank you so much for taking the time to sit with us today. We really appreciate all of the insight. It was fun. It was a pleasure.
Landan, Verve are doing a great job, and Verve is a great company, but I actually wanted to tell you that you are the first company that I've worked with that have a soundtrack. If you all remember, Bittersweet Symphony is Verve's soundtrack. So bravo.
A
I love
connection
that
to Full
song. I
Intentions.
love it. No,
Thank you so
so
much.
much, Landon. It's, I've really enjoyed this. Thank you.